Hello everyone, my name is Zane Anderson and I'm working on this project called Chameleon Code. It is my tile game project where the player changes colors in order to uh, complete puzzles. Um, Going further, last time I wanted to showcase the ability to change colors, which for a recap I will show this here. Player changes to the color green, and the sensor here will determine if the color of the player is the correct color. So here it checks to see that the player is green, and if it is, it passes. If not, it fails. So we'll move on through. He passes and he completes the level. Again, changes the color. Player gets captured if the wrong color. Moving on to the next, and if it correct, the player can pass through. Part of my project, I needed to implement a new mechanic from a classmate, and the classmate I chose was Jessica Ogden. She wanted to make a pit tile that would accept boxes in order to create a bridge. She wasn't exactly sure how to complete that objective at the time, so I decided to help her understand how it would work, and here is my solution. Going further, I wanted to make sure that the bridges could carry multiple boxes across, and they can. So I will showcase this as well. And to go even further, I wanted to implement my mechanic to the mechanic she wanted to introduce. So this is a blend of both of our mechanics working in tandem. With this, you can see that I have been able to move the boxes over, and I have created a level where the player needs to use both um, regular boxes and colored boxes. And I will show what it looks like should the boxes be the wrong color when trying to create the bridge here in just a moment. So it shows I have a normal colored box and a green colored box, and they create the bridges where they're supposed to be. However, just to make sure that things are correct, what I did was made it so if it's not the correct color code, it just falls through like a player. And that is what I did for using both of our mechanics together. And now I will show you what the code looks like. Moving into the code for the bridge pit, here's what I did. I wanted to, this is the original code for the begin play for the pits, but for the bridge pit I wanted to determine the color code. So here I have the ability to override whether or not it's going to default to normal or if I want to set it to a specific color. With that, it takes the color that it's set to, and depending on depending on what color code it is, it changes the indicator colors. And the indicators are let's set the visibility here. So these are the indicators. If you saw in the gameplay, there was the little squares to determine, or rectangles to determine if it was a bridge tile or not. This is to help the player know whether or not they can build a bridge there or not. And these change colors based on the color code. So this starts the add direction event. So add direction, what this does is it takes all the neighbors and grabs their values, and then with the values it runs a for each loop. And here's where it gets a little interesting. So for the array element that I want for each neighbor, I only want it to work if it's a tile floor or a tile message. The reason for this is I obviously don't want the indicators to show if it's a wall or a non-passable entity, so having it where a player can move or an entity can move onto the tile. I have the tile floor and the tile message here as an or function because it can be either or, either of these tiles. But it can't only be that. It also needs to make sure that the correct directionality shows up. So I had to test this, and if the index shows 0 and it's one of these two tiles, it spawns indicator 0. Same thing for indicator 1, 2, and 3, and they're corresponding. So these are the conditions, and this is the direction. And this determines which indicator spawns. And the indicator's already determined what color based on the color code that is set. So after that, now we need the functionality of the actual pit. What happens based on when it enters. So here I have it determine the object. So entering entity determines if it's a box. If it's not a box, it just moves forward. So if it's a box, what it does is it casts to entity box and sets the start position. But with this, it's really pulling the color status of the box. This is what it's looking for. So if it's false, it just moves forward, and if it's not a box, this is what it's doing. So if it's a box here, it follows this path. It checks to see if the box is the correct color, and then if it's the correct color, then what it does is it starts the animation. It starts the animation, and while the animation is starting, the player is disabled from moving. This allows the player to let the box finish animating. This solves a bug that I came across where the player, if they kept spamming the push button, they could create an invisible bridge and essentially carry a box through multiple bridges and just create bridges wherever they felt like with using only one box. So what this does is it disables the player from being able to press the interact button a second time until the box has finished its animation. So if it's a box and it's the correct color, what ends up happening is it sets a new fall distance. So the end position will be in place, so it looks like it seamlessly falls into place. It follows this timeline to go through, and then sets the actor location as the end position. What it also does is it sets the can enter of that position to true, and then it also sets the current entity that it perceives it has to none. This way, what ends up happening is it can take it can receive another current entity, and there's no issues there. It also sets can walk to true, so this means that the player can walk into that space, or any object can enter that space. This might actually not be needed. I think I might have changed this. This was for the box entity, if it was allowing the player to walk on it or not. Yeah, that's what it is. I was having trouble with getting the correct color codes to line up, so I was having blue boxes fall in white spaces and all that, and that's what this was for. So in my color code function, I set this in. I could probably take this out at this point. And then to finalize, once it's all done, it enables the player to be able to move again. If it's not the correct color, or if it's a player or any other entity, it follows this path, where the original end position is there from the pit tile, and it drops all the actors and then destroys the player or destroys the entity. Yeah, can walk right here. Okay, so this actually is the indicator that says whether or not the player can walk and enter. Okay, that's what it is. Pardon my correction here. So how the can walk works is if the player can't walk on it, if it's false, that's when it runs this whole check, and it sets it to true so the player can walk. So if it does say that this is true, all of these steps is not needed anymore. So that's why the true path is empty. Going into my color check, what I did was I have it where it takes the entity of the box and checks the color of the box compared to the pit's color code. And if the box and the pit's color code is the same, then the correct output happens. This is the part where this is probably not needed anymore. But it's in there just in case. I feel like updating this. So this says, hey, the correct color is there, or the correct color is not there, depending on what the outcome is, and that's what creates this this section here, the color check. So correct color says yes, and same thing here. And that is my take on the bridge pit. Thanks for watching.